Vietnamese coffee. Coffee plays a vital role in the history and culture of Vietnam. During our time in Ho Chi Minh City, we got to attend a class to learn more about how this plant has interwoven itself into the fabric of the Vietnamese economy and society. And most importantly, we got to try many different types of coffee. Lots and lots of coffee. In class, we got to review the differences between Arabica and Robusta coffee. Most interesting was being able to try them side by side, which helped us to appreciate the differences. Arabica coffee is the most widely produced, making up about 2/3 of the world's production. Although it is lower in caffeine, it is considered to have a more complex and sophisticated flavor. Coffee was first brought to Vietnam by the French in the 19th century when they colonized the country. Although producers first tried to produce Arabica coffee, it soon became evident that Robusta would be what would thrive in the Vietnamese soil. Robusta coffee production is dominated by Vietnam and Brazil. It has a higher caffeine content than Arabica coffee, is easy to grow, and has a higher resistance to disease. The downside is that Robusta coffee is considered to be inferior to that of Arabica, having less flavor complexities. But Vietnam has capitalized on what others might consider a weakness and have used it to their advantage to jump to the world's second leading producer of coffee. Most of their coffee goes towards instant coffee and coffee-flavored snacks. Within its country of origin, however, Vietnamese coffee culture has really stepped up to make a very unique type of coffee experience, which we're going to show you today. Because the flavor of a Robusta coffee is considered inferior and less complex to that of Arabica, the Vietnamese have found a way to infuse fun flavors into the beans. So during the roasting process, other flavors are added. These flavors include things like vanilla, chocolate, cinnamon, and sometimes even whiskey. In order to give it that thick consistency that comes to mind when you're thinking about Vietnamese coffee, they also add vegetable oil and about 3% of what they consider over-roasted soybeans. This helps to give the coffee that distinct Vietnamese sweet flavor and thick consistency. So when preparing Arabica coffee, you can normally think of either an espresso where they're going to grind the grounds super finely and pack it in really tight before blasting the water through it, or maybe French press or pour over. But Vietnamese coffee is prepared quite differently. In order to get the best flavor out of the Vietnamese coffee beans, you must use an aluminum brewing device called a fin. The fin allows for the coffee grounds to be much thicker and steeped together with near boiling water in order to extract all of those intense flavors we just mentioned. We measured out to the gram the perfect amount of coffee and added it to the fin, before adding just a smidge of near boiling water to create a bloom. In this case, the bloom refers to when the near boiling water touches the coffee grounds, releasing CO2 and allowing the coffee grounds to expand. From this point, we press down on the filter in order to slow the coffee drip rate and extract maximum flavor before pouring over the rest of the near boiling water. And now the difficult part, waiting. Before we dive into a few of the traditional drinks that can be made with Vietnamese coffee, I just want to have a quick discussion. If you watch my channel at all, you know that I am plant-based and I'm a huge proponent of the plant-based lifestyle. In the rest of this video, you're going to see some traditional Vietnamese coffee drinks that are made using sweetened condensed milk and eggs. I am really looking forward to making some plant-based alternatives to these types of drinks once we return home from our big trip. So keep a lookout for that in the late fall. So the first traditional Vietnamese coffee drink that we made was the Café Sua Non, or the coffee with sweetened condensed milk. So you might wonder, why the sweetened condensed milk? Well, when the French first introduced coffee to the Vietnamese in the 1850s, for the local people, fresh milk was both expensive and difficult to come by, so they used condensed milk instead. But they had a taste for something a little sweeter, so they pumped it up a notch and used the sweetened condensed milk. In the years that followed, they fell in love with the sweetened condensed milk version, and even once fresh milk became much more widely available, they continued to stick with the old standby, and hence a deeply ingrained coffee tradition was born. The next coffee we learned about was the Café Sua Da, or the iced coffee with sweetened condensed milk. For this drink, you simply take what we just made and pour it over ice, and voila! The iced version, Café Sua Da, is actually the #1 seller in Vietnam. So why over ice? Our coffee instructors swore that it helped to bring out even more of those notes that they worked so hard to infuse during the roasting process. But I had a sneaking suspicion that it was a little bit more simple than that. Vietnam is hot, y'all, and there's nothing better than an ice-cold drink on a hot day. The final coffee drink of the day that we got to learn about was the Café Trum, or the infamous egg coffee. Egg coffee also has some interesting roots. So once again, back in the era of French colonization, the French had opened up a large and beautiful hotel in downtown Hanoi. And one of the local men that worked at the cafe in the hotel fell in love with the cappuccino as he served them to the wealthy patrons who frequented the cafe. He loved the light, airy, and creamy texture of a cappuccino so much, he decided he needed to find an affordable alternative for his countrymen. As I mentioned before, both milk and cream were difficult to come by and expensive for the everyday working class people. But nearly everyone owned a chicken, and eggs were both easy to come by and very cheap. So after a few rounds of experimentation, the egg coffee was born. For egg coffee, the yolk is separated from the white, and the yolk is whisked briskly together with sugar, salt, and sometimes even more sweet condensed milk. And there you have it, the poor man's cappuccino, or perhaps even more decadent. The Vietnamese ended up loving this technique so much they applied it to both matcha and chocolate over the years. We also got a bonus round of trying a tea made from the cascara, or the shells, of the coffee berry. Our day with Win was the perfect way to learn more about the Vietnamese coffee culture. I hope that you learned a little bit of something watching this video. I know we sure learned a lot during our class. Thanks again for watching. If you like this video, please go ahead and smash that like button, and if you want more content like this, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and cheers from the Sears.